You're watching HCAM TV.
Hello, and welcome to HCAM TV, and welcome to the Hopkinton Hangout Hour for Friday, June the 5th. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Today's episode is going to be your host and co-host chatting about the COVID-19 state of the world and how we're all doing. It's kind of one of these ones that we do once in a while to just catch up and see how things are going. And for the first time on this show, I would like to invite anybody who wishes to give us a call and actually call in and join our show. You can also go on the YouTube stream and you can go into the chat and you can communicate with us that way. And also, I should say, I've been remiss. I haven't said this yet, but hi, Mom. All right. Welcome, Matt, Michael, and...
Finally, you acknowledge your mother. That's very nice of you. What show number is this?
Hey, don't go there. All right. So, how is everything going in your world?
Well, I'll start. I mean, first off, thanks for reminding me that it's Friday today. You can't tell by the shirt anyways.
Yeah.
But no, it's going great. The chores are getting done around the house still. And even though we are doing some work around the house, the weather's finally being nice, actually getting outside to take care of a few things. And just can't wait to get back into some kind of office and see real people again. You know, everyone looks so two-dimensional right now. I'm missing people. I miss you guys.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. In fact, tonight, I spent the morning cleaning my house because it had been a while, and boy, it needed it. And we're having our first socially distant visit on our back porch, which we're going to be very distant with masks on, and just visiting having a couple friends over we're getting dinner at a restaurant, so we're not cooking or anything like that.
Yep.
And we'll see. You know, it's the first time for doing that, and I wonder how awkward it'll be sitting 30 feet away from each other, because even though they talk about 6 feet as the appropriate social distance, that was based on technology that was decades ago, and the smallest items that they could pick up or detect. And with today's technology, they can pick up these smaller molecules, and COVID-19 is in that smaller one. So it can go further than 6 feet. So masks and distance are both really important.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe keeping the mask on when you are at that distance, you know, they say when you're less, and you'll see some events where people are closer, they're both masked. Yeah, they're protecting each other. That's great. But 6 feet and more, still keep them on.
Right. So, and also, by the way, outside too. I said we're going on a back porch, so we're inside into an enclosed space.
That's awesome. How about you, Bob?
I was reading that, like, for example, if they came in to just use the bathroom, that's a low risk potential.
Right.
You're not going to make them suffer.
No. And you don't have that many woods in the back either.
I got plenty of woods, pal, and a swamp too, so you wouldn't even know.
Yeah, I'm sure the ladies would love that. I'm not doing much, Mike. I'm still doing the same thing I always do. Outside, trying to trim the grass and the bushes, doing whatever my wife tells me to do. That's what's the important thing. As long as I get those errands done, I'm all good. How about you, Matt?
Well, you know, kind of just the same. Me and my friends actually had our version of what you said, Jim, on Wednesday, because it's been, you know, almost 12 weeks since we've seen each other now. No, I guess 13, no, or less than that. I mean, because we did get together and had like a socially distant, we get together every Wednesday night, or we used to. And so like one of the first weeks we ordered takeout from our usual restaurant and ate it on the common. which was less than ideal because it was March and it was still cold. But we did that again at my friend's house on Wednesday night, and the weather was much more agreeable then, and it was a good time. It was good to see everyone again.
Yeah, and how far do you stay away?
Uh, we were all probably about like 10 feet away from each other, and we were also all wearing masks unless we were eating. So
Actually, do you know this? Because I just learned this recently. You know why you wear a mask?
me in general.
Well, when you're going out there and doing a socially distant visit, why are you wearing a mask?
Well, isn't it because when both people are wearing masks, the chances of
All right, you're close. Bob, why do you wear a mask?
Protect other people from
Yep.
contracting the virus from me.
Right.
But I also wear it because it's cosmetically pleasing to other people to look at.
Well,
Hey, you look fantastic with it, Bob. I tell you.
Yeah, thanks.
I know. You know, I honestly think it must be really hard for you because you can't really get across all of your, grumpiness when half your face is covered.
I know it's very difficult. Otherwise, you'd see me smiling all the time. There would never be any problems.
Exactly. So anyway, so I think that's really important. Personally for me, keeping the masks on, keeping outside, staying as far apart as you can, and both wearing masks, you to protect them and they to protect you.
So what we did, I had a little get together with 4 of us total for Taco Tuesday. And we did this outside, and I brought everything, put it out on a table. And even though we were sitting apart from each other, the table wasn't near us, and we went up one at a time to make a taco. Come back and sit down. Because normally it's you put everything there, and everyone's like, pass this, pass the cheese, do this.
Yep.
But instead, we just one at a time did.
How did you get the stuff?
What's that?
Like, what are some of the toppings?
Oh, the topping's just the traditional lettuce, tomato, onion, the hot sauce, some
Okay.
salsa
How did you get the lettuce and tomato and onion onto your taco?
with tools.
Did you share tools?
We did.
I mean, you
Right
should be using
there.
tools to do that, regardless of whether or not it's a pandemic time.
Right there. That's it right there, buddy. Okay? Individual tools, nobody shares because that's where you get the transmission.
No, you know what happened? We all wore the serving gloves.
Might as well be double dipping with the chips.
Well, you're not supposed to double dip?
Oh, that's
Depends on who
Mike.
you ask.
Please.
I love double dipping.
Don't be a barbarian.
Matter
Okay?
of fact, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get some chips.
These are the only tools Mike has. So he was.
So,
Oh, wait, I got one question here before I forget, because I noticed that the phone number keeps disappearing when I see other people. How did you do that?
oh, really?
Yeah.
I popped the Mike. You could easily.
Oh,
do
you
it.
add that? You added that to your background?
That's a new picture with the phone right in there.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, I know. And I was thinking about putting my email address on there too. But if I want to take it off, I take it off, and if I want to put it on, I put it. So people at home, like if you had the opportunity to watch this sitting at your laptop or watching it at home sitting on your couch, you're probably more likely to be sitting on your couch. And guess what is right next to your couch? Your telephone. So give us a call and say hi and tell us how you're doing.
But Jim, I think
mine's on the wall in the kitchen.
Yeah, but Jim, I think that's very appropriate because I just noticed on YouTube we have a message for you. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, you say it that way, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Jimmy.
I am Jimmy from my family. That's
You don't need to tell me. I've been Bobby for 75 years.
all right. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That's great. So,
Right. Has anybody had a chance to take in a drive-in movie yet?
No.
Drive-ins are open.
is it Edgemere?
I'm not sure about Edgemere, but we have the
Menden?
Menden one.
Yeah, I was thinking Menden because I was thinking Menden. What's the name? Is it just the Menden Drive-In?
Menden Twin, right?
Menden
Yep.
Twin, yes.
Yeah. I've been there before, but I haven't been there since they started loosening up. You know what's
Yeah.
funny?
They have pathways to the bathroom, so you're not passing the groups waiting for food. They get the footprints and the tape on the floors so you can keep everything distance. And of course, you're in your cars.
And I thought that was owned by Andelman now.
It is. The
Yeah,
Edelman
they
brothers
took it
own
over,
that now.
fixed it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that place is great.
But now the reservations are out there. I think they're right now almost a week away. So you have to book your appointments, get your tickets.
And I also heard there was a problem with getting new films. There aren't very many new films being made, so they don't have a lot to present.
Right.
Yeah, but I think, that's really interesting. Although, do you think of new releases when you think of a drive-in?
Mendon, you do.
I know, but like traditionally, right?
Traditionally, never.
Traditionally, they're pretty far behind.
Well, yeah, traditionally, not when I was a kid in the 70s going there, and they were first runs. Because there was tons of them back then.
Right.
I used to go to the old Revere Drive-In right there on Route 60.
I'm really only familiar with the Twin drive-through, so I didn't know that they were mostly older movies thing.
Mm.
Yeah, before, as a matter of fact, just before the Andelmans bought it, they just started doing first run features. They would do one first run, and then they would do an older movie or something, a kid's movie or kid related one first, and then the second feature would be more adult because the kids are usually passed out.
Yeah. So how about eating out? Any action on the restaurant front, Mike, in Hopkinton? Because you're the
Well,
master.
Right now, everything is open with the exception of Snappy Dogs and, Snappy Dogs. Everybody's open, and they're all gearing up for Monday when they can start allowing outdoor seating. Places now pitching tents, building tables. They are cordoning off parking lot areas. Hopkinton has some very strict regulations compared to some other towns. For instance, if you go to TJ's, next to their patio, they paved an area so they can put tables. And those, I call them the theater straps that mark your aisles.
Yeah.
That's all they have separating the parking lot and the seating area. Hopkins, you have to put up fences, and they want like barricades so cars don't, But again, we're hoping that this will only last a couple of weeks before they can start going indoors. So now the tough part about these restaurants, where are the bathrooms located in restaurants? Normally in the back. You got to walk by everybody's tables.
Yeah.
Well, if that's where your bathroom is, you can't have seating to your pathway to the bathrooms. So now you got to start, you have to spread out your seating because you're only at like, say, 50%. And you spread out your seating, but now you can't use the seats that are near the bathrooms. If patrons have to walk by, they're not supposed to walk by others.
Are you sure it's 50? I thought it was 20. Is it 25 just for offices? I thought it was. But anyways, if they have to...
It's between 33 and 50. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Think about it this way. They have to put 6 feet of distance between each table. So if you have 6 feet, there's no way you can get to 50% capacity.
Well,
And you can only have 6 people at a table.
Yep.
So you couldn't put in a table that's 12 feet long and have everybody sit on the opposite sides. It can only have 6 people per table.
And if people aren't smart, right off the bat, make a reservation. Don't just think you're going to be able to walk in. And guess what? You're not going, like the bars are still closed. The places that just serve alcohol, that's phase 4. You can't go into just a bar. So the bars that are restaurants, you got to order your food before you get a drink, and they're only going to keep you there for an hour and a half.
Wait a minute. And also, too, Mike, even if you're a restaurant with a bar, you can't.
You can't sit at a bar. No.
All customers must be seated. Eat-in service to standing customers around bar areas is prohibited. So I guess
Correct.
you can use the bar as long as you're sitting people 6 feet away from each other.
That's correct, unless they're in a party together.
But then what about the bar?
What's that?
And what about the bartender?
Bartender has to wear their mask and gloves and stuff. And yeah, the only people that don't wear masks would be the kitchen help. The 2 people, 3 people in the kitchen.
What have you seen? What have you noticed about menus? Because a lot of the places were doing very abbreviated menus during this time.
Right. What happened, yes, they were doing abbreviated menus because it was hard to get stock. I don't know if everyone remembered when COVID went through all the meat processing plants and all the meat prices rose. I mean, what was that? Uh, to make steak tips, the meat was about 5 something a pound. Now it's 10 something a pound.
Wow.
So that'll start coming down again once they get back into full swing production. And you got to remember, this is going to be a long time away. You're not talking about any kind of full swing anything until they come out with a vaccine.
Right.
So, with that being said, the restaurants did serve a limited menu, like the Spoon. The Spoon had a limited takeout menu, and they also had family dinners. You could get a pre-made lasagna that you just throw in the oven for an hour. You could get chicken pot pie or shepherd's pie
Right.
already made and just put it.
How did their menu go?
What's that?
How did Cornell's menu go?
Cornell's kept everything the same, with the exception of no slices. And when they were out of things such as steak tips or whatever, you could have a steak tip dinner, you could have a steak tip Caesar. For a while, they weren't doing the shaved steak because it was just so hard to get. And then they saw, okay, the place has opened up and you're able to get it. Cornell's menu is now back to full menu. And they used to do their specials every other day. Now they're lasting for the week. So
what do they do? What do they do with the actual menu? Does it get passed from table
so
to
now,
table?
as
They
part of
throw it away?
the new opening will be throwaway menus. People are going to be encouraged to go online and look at their menus on their own device. And they also sell keto there. We can't leave the keto slips and pencils out. You have to do that individually. So there's so many things changes, like the silverware. It's all plastic now. A lot of places, each table is going to have their own trash bin.
What about tips? Are you going to leave tips on the table for the servers, or are you just going to have to add it to the?
That's another person. So Cornell's is cash only. They did open up the credit cards during this crisis because banks were closed and they wanted to help the people. So they will still take credit cards for deliveries if they continue deliveries and takeout, which they will do. The eat-in will be back to cash again. And there's an ATM machine there. There's ways to pass the cash along. It's very simple to do. But there's steps that are taken for all this. And there's also, and all the stores have to have cleanup logs. They get a log every time they clean the table.
Yeah.
When did they clean the doorknobs? They have to have a log of all that stuff.
Yeah. It's all important. I was just doing a quick check while you were talking because there's a couple restaurants I like to go to, and it looks like they're not back up to full menu yet. And what I'm telling you, what I am really, really missing now is fish and chips. I have like such a craving for that.
Oh, Cornell's got it.
Last week or 2 weeks ago, I bought some haddock at the grocery store, and I kept it overnight and cooked it the next day, and it smelled up the refrigerator so bad. And I'm thinking maybe it's just not the freshest. I don't know, but It took me a while to clean that out.
Well, Cornell's has the fish and chips on their regular menu, as well as they got the Captain Club sandwich today with bacon.
Oh,
Everything's better with bacon.
The Spoon also has really good fish and chips Friday nights.
yeah.
I want to say the Spoon probably has the freshest seafood in this town. That's a big, and I'm not a seafood person, but it comes in Friday morning, and they get the best stuff. Bill used to work for the company years ago. It's the freshest seafood, and I mean, I love their fried clams. They're just amazing.
Yeah. So we got a few minutes left before the second half hour, and I wanted to see. I haven't asked you this. I'm kind of wondering. We all work for the same company, so we know what we're doing. But have you heard of any other friends or family that work for other companies and how the rollout of phase 2 is going for them?
Well, the people that in my circles are mostly essential, and they've been working, but the staff's been reduced. I do have one friend that doesn't look like they're going back to work till the beginning of next year. And she works for Verizon, and she's a logistics specialist for them. And basically, when this all started in March, they brought her computer home to her, and she's been there ever since.
I've been reading about a couple of companies in Boston. I don't remember the name. That they've announced that they've made a decision. They're not coming back. They're transitioning to a work at home force. And
I would go crazy.
oh, I don't know. I mean, but the thing is, you're talking about working that way, right? I'm talking about if you are a company, a business owner, or something like that, and all of a sudden this hits and you figure it out and you make it work, and now all of a sudden you're saying, why am I maintaining this massive building when we could just be doing this all from our homes and it works?
Exactly. Just like, I mean, just by the person, this is my feelings, these poor girls that have to commute to Boston every day, sit an hour and a half traffic each way and whatever. Look at the money they're saving. It's almost like a raise to stay at home. If it doesn't change, that is a raise. I can't tell you that the money I save from not going out on a regular basis and socializing, it's a huge savings. Although Amazon will tell a different story. I keep buying stuff all the time.
I see.
It's terrible. So yeah, I don't know. Bob, I don't know how he can tell us about the working life, but being the retired one. But Bob, you know of any people that own a business or what they're doing?
I didn't even know you were working, Mike. Oh, but no, I don't know a lot of people that are actually in the business, working in business. And it's been years since I've done any kind of work. So that's beyond me. I do know, though, that some of my relatives in other states seem to have a different view about what's happening in the East Coast than what's happening out in the Midwest, say, or even in the South, that they don't understand quite what's going on. For them, it's more about what it says on the news, but their lives are pretty much going on the same way it always had, even though a lot of them have been affected by the unemployment situation, but they expect to get back to work pretty quickly.
Right. And Matt, you know what? I actually don't know the answer to this question. Is this your first real job after college, or did you work somewhere before?
No, I did have a job for a few months in 2016.
Okay.
I was working in a lab. It didn't end great, so I don't talk about it much.
Oh, was that explosion thing?
Moving on. That's
It wasn't a job I enjoyed either. So,
how about your friends, Matt? The Geek Squad. What's happening with them?
Most of my friends are actually not working right now, mostly because they're teachers. Oh well, no, they're working, but they're working from home and they're almost done with the year. Um, and then some of my other friends, they're just not working for whatever reason. And then two of my other friends, and then most of my other friends just have their normal jobs and are working from home. I don't know what their plans are on getting back into the office. So.
So how are people feeling now? I know at the beginning, everything exploded. We had no idea. And now we're at the point where we've seen the curve bend. And Massachusetts is one of the top 4 hotspots. And we never maxed out the medical system availability. I think that was a really great testament to people staying at home and not spreading this thing around. It still is around, we know that. But I'm just wondering, have we bent the curve of our nervousness, or is it taking a new type of nervousness over how is this world going to come back and what will the new normal look like? Are we banking on I don't want to say antidote. What is the word?
Vaccine.
The vaccine. The vaccine by the end of the year, 100 million doses, or I don't know. I haven't read a lot about that, but wow, if they could come up with a vaccine by the end of the year, that would probably be incredibly fast in the history of the world.
Well, I tell you, it was nice to see all these hospitals prepare. Nice to see these Navy ships come in to help. Seeing these centers that Bob Dubinsky helped build, that would, took care of this. It was nice to see that the people that used to call at 2 a.m. for 911 because their knee hurt or whatever, those people basically stopped calling because they were afraid to go to the hospital, So the hospital system really wasn't as taxed as it could have been. I think Massachusetts and most of the country was very prepared for this. And now it's to the point that we've actually made a little statement to our citizens in Ashland through the fire department saying, call 911 because, you need a call. It is safe. People thought it wasn't safe to go to the hospitals. So yeah, a little chest pain. Yeah, I'll wait. No, you get the chest pain, call. We're doing everything we can to protect you from us and us from you. So all these precautions are being made all the way from pick up at your house to drop off in the emergency room. So we're begging people to go to the hospital.
So I had heard about that too.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I know this is not in your purview and not in your job because you're in the emergency response side. But I'm wondering if you've heard anything from your friends and acquaintances that are working at hospitals. How are they doing? Are they struggling now?
Yeah, you know what? In the beginning, because it was just craziness, but a lot of them, I knew some people that weren't even, I'm going to use the term activated to come in for these extra shifts and what have you. But the ones that I've talked to, the ones that I know on a personal basis, I'm hearing that the taking the precautions, it's a little stressing on everybody as they get used to it. Trying to get their patients used to it. It does slow down the care, but let me tell you something. Everyone is, they're more emotional, I guess is the best way I could say it. They're just so emotional over everyone's needs. So a lot came out from this.
I think some of the pictures that really touch me are the pictures of the grandparents who wrap themselves in plastic so that they can hug their grandchildren. There was a nurse and she hadn't touched her parents for months. So her mother, on a whim, like her daughter left some stuff outside. She whipped a sheet out of the laundry and threw it over herself. And they had a picture of her getting a hug. And, you don't know how important not physical touch, but physical connection, physical proximity is to our race.
Well, how about having a grandparent or a parent or a loved one on their deathbed and no one can go in and say goodbye? My friend is having a baby and he has to stay out of work now and self-isolate for 2 weeks or else he can't go into that birthing room.
Right.
So, and you're going to see this stuff here turn into the new, like you said, the new norm. You're going to start seeing stuff like this.
I was just thinking when you were saying that, I was thinking about, so is that person able to self-isolate and stay home while still getting paid?
He's using his personal time, his vacation and what have you to do that. It's not part of the maternity time. So, but anyways, I think it's time to wrap this up. Nice to catch up with everyone. So, Jim, I'm gonna throw it back to you in the Wayback Machine to I think it was April 12th. I think it was my birthday. It was either the 12th or the 16th when you sat down with Tim Kilduff and had a nice little discussion. So I'm gonna share the screen and I'm gonna let you take it away.
Talking to Bob Dubinsky, who is just arriving in our Zoom meeting. So
great.
Welcome to our show. Tim, welcome back.
Hi, Jim. Jim, it's nice to be with you again. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to talk about somebody who is engaged in this battle, a Hopkinton business person. I'm really proud of him, quite frankly, because Bob is involved with the center that's been set up at the Boston Convention and Exhibit Center in Boston. And Bob is one of many people in town. Some of us get a little frustrated because we can't engage. And I'm living vicariously through Bob because he's engaged in this challenge. Bob, thanks for being with us.
Happy to be with you. Good to see you, Tim.
Well, we may do just a quick little tutorial. Bob is the president of corporate communications, and give us a quick little overview of corporate communications, and then the subset of that, which will lead into our discussion about the work you're doing in Boston.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Good to be on the air. Corporate communications, well-known name in Hopkinton, manages trade shows and events across the country and across the world for major corporations and associations. And a subset of that service pertains particularly to Boston, where a division, Corporate Events New England, provides union-affiliated labor at the Boston Convention Center, the Heinz Convention Center, and local hotels at the various trade shows.
And so you're like all of us have been practicing appropriate distancing and so forth until you got a very interesting telephone call a couple of weeks ago to be engaged in a very important project that was spearheaded by the governor.
Correct. 2 weeks ago tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, we received a text message from Local 25, our union Teamster affiliate, to say an activation might take place at the BCEC. And if so, we were allowed the opportunity to put together a proposal to provide labor to assist several trade unions in the activation of what we now know as a 100-bed treatment center.
Wow.
Excuse me, 1,000-bed treatment center.
I thought there was a little miscalculation there. 1,000, big difference from 100, isn't it? Tell for those of us that aren't familiar with the center itself, can you sort of describe the size of it and the scope of the center in Boston?
It's the largest convention center in the city. It's approximately maybe 20 years old. It hosts international and domestic trade shows, and it was said to be probably the best place to go ahead and house this type of activation from a number of different standpoints. One, it's supported by the Massachusetts Convention Authority, a well-equipped machine that's able to react quickly to a lot of trade show and event needs. And when the project was described to us, it was going to be managed by is managed by Suffolk Construction. Great guy, Jim Grossman, one of their senior executives, is on loan to the mayor to commandeer this project.
Suffolk, for those people that don't know, Suffolk Construction is one of the largest construction companies in the country.
Correct.
Headquartered in Boston. Well, so you get a call, and then you have people around you that you have to engage. And I understand some of those people are Hopkinton residents.
This is true. Our vice president of operations is a gentleman named Jay Britt. One of our senior managers, Wally Henneberry, is also a Hopkinton resident. But Tim, I think it's really an outstanding accomplishment on behalf of a lot of groups and a lot of organizations, because as I mentioned, as of 8 o'clock, we got a call that this might happen. At 10 o'clock, the group went into a meeting, and it was deemed that the Boston Convention Center was going to be activated. And then at 11:30, we got a call from Suffolk Construction to say, what do we need to get engaged? And our comment was, we are. We met there at 4 o'clock that afternoon and had a crew on the floor for two 12-hour shifts for a period of 4 or 5 days, working in conjunction with Select Demolition Group, Darjack, and of course the MCCA to go ahead and have these rooms built within 4 days. After the rooms are built, they need to be totally activated by the hospital and healthcare staff. And we were operational 7 days after that.
I'm intrigued. You have competitors. There are other people in your business. I'm intrigued by how you got who called you first of all, and then why? How did corporate communications? How was it distinguished? And why did you get the call? I mean, I'm intrigued with that. They could have called a number of companies. They called you.
Well, there's only six authorized companies in Massachusetts that can directly provide labor to both the convention center, and we need to be bonded and insured as such. So we were one of six companies that was asked to put together a proposal, basically for a labor rate and some management skills. A lot of the other companies maybe didn't react as quickly. It was said that our group was extremely enthusiastic with our response, and consequently was deemed the project.
Well, I think it says a lot about you, and it says a lot about the company.
A lot of people behind me, Tim. It's not just me.
And you know what? That's good for you to say that. Good of you to say that because that's important, and it really does take a team, doesn't it?
It does. And Tim, you can imagine that there was 2 12-hour shifts that went from 8 to 8 p.m. Jay Britt's across the street. He's been quarantined for the period of this event. I think it's important for the group or the audience to know of the precautions that are being take place from a healthcare standpoint. Every day that we enter the building, where we get our temperature taken, everyone is quizzed as to how they feel. Do they feel healthy? Are they suffering any of the symptoms like lack of smell? And throughout the day, you can see the mask that I have
Yes.
with me at all times. There's plenty of hand soap. There's plenty of, there's also a course that it's a PPE course, personal protection equipment, that we have men right now that are in the treatment rooms, fully garbed, masked, protocol taking place, so we can make sure that the folks working here are safe. And when they go home, they're also safe, and the people around them are safe.
Bob, I didn't ask you this, but are you actually on site at the moment?
Yes, behind me you'll see the empty Boston Convention Center, which at this time of the year would be bustling with activities for the Boston Seafood Show and the National Science Teachers Show. These are all events that have been postponed or canceled because of the virus.
Okay, so you get the call.
Mm-hmm.
You fill out the proposal. You put your ideas forth. You're selected. Then what?
Then we activate anywhere between a number of 40 to 50 affiliated union personnel from Local 25. We work in conjunction with Suffolk Construction and their carpenter supervisors. Darjack, who provided a lot of equipment, 1,000 lockers, cots, beds, and we all worked in tandem. And I think it was a group effort during these troubled times.
Any challenge in recruiting people?
No, not really, Tim. I think two things. A lot of these people would be out of work for an extended period of time because one of the hardest hit industries is the event industry, because it involves a lot of social contact. And it's kind of sobering because a lot of the people, when you see come to work, it's not a typical trade show. You see patients, you see the treatment rooms activated. So it's a little concerning. A lot of people have really stepped up for this effort.
Yeah, I can imagine. There are a lot of, and I think there is some frustration on the part of a lot of us that I with a smile on my face said that I'm living vicariously through you on this. I wish I could be there with you, but one of the things that all of us need to do is what the governor asked us to do. And if you're
physical distancing.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that a challenge when you're working in and around, when you did the setup, for example, you had 50 plus employees. That had to be a challenge, in terms of the social distancing.
At the start of every 8 o'clock or the 8 p.m. start, there was safety officials here that gave a tutorial. That was done at breaks, and we're very careful to go ahead and follow that protocol as much as we could. A unique attribute, originally when the activation took place, as I said, it'll be 2 weeks ago Friday, it was said to only be in one of the halls, C halls, for 500 rooms. And B hall, as we refer to, was going to be activated by the Army Corps of Engineers. And I think it's a tribute to Suffolk, and I think it's a tribute to our workers that it was quickly decided that the efficiency of our group to build these 500 rooms in a period of 2.5 days said, why don't we just go ahead and continue in Hall B? And we built those 500 rooms in even less time than that. Sorry to displace the Army Corps of Engineers, but they're in here now with the activation. But I think that's a nice tribute to our group. And again, the cooperation of a lot of different trade unions and the Teamsters who have jurisdiction here to get it done within the amount of time that we got it done.
You know, we hear a lot of talk about the need for local control management, not control, but local management. This is an example of that, isn't it? This is not somebody coming in over the top. The governor engaged local companies in a very personal and efficient and quick way, didn't he?
No, very true. As you pointed out, Suffolk is one of the biggest in the business. They're quite big here in Boston. They run a very efficient operation. But it's been pointed out to us, and we've had conversations about it, that a lot of their projects, they understand a change order, if you will, a month or two in advance. Here at the BCEC, for any trade shows, our change orders come through with an hour's notice. Do this, change this, modify this. And I think, again, it's the partnership between the great planning in Suffolk and the reactionary aspects of what we do in business to go ahead and make this thing spin. We're turning on a dime at any time.
Jim, impressive, isn't it?
It's really impressive. And first, hello, Bob. It's great to see you again.
Good seeing you, Jim.
I've seen Bob on many occasions. He actually has been a great help to me in my work as a teacher in the high school, providing me an anchor desk for our news show. So you've got a track record here. But what I'm interested in, Bob, it sounds really fascinating. And you talk about the labor. Where did the physical stuff that you were working with come from, and what actually was it that you and your team were working on?
So the walls that you see in a number of the pictures were constructed off-site. They were 8 foot by 8 foot walls, steel studded, and they were two-sided with sheetrock. So you can imagine some of these panels were 250 pounds a piece. So they were shipped in tractor trailers. They were wedged out of the truck for a better purpose. They were palletized 5 per panel. And then our Teamster crew went ahead and fork trucked them into the hall at various spots. And then teams of 4 went ahead and constructed them. So, Jim, to answer your question specifically, the labor force came from a number of different places. Carpenters that were working for Select up in shops here in Boston. Teamsters, which we have a list of 24 qualified people we can call by name. And then we depend upon the efficiency of the union hall to go ahead and bring in other list members to assist with the project. And these are all enthusiastic individuals that are just ready to jump in and do the work.
And is that a whole separate procurement thing where you keep talking about the labor? So you signed up to put this stuff together, but the materials were provided by someone else?
Correct. Now, corporate communications carries an inventory of trade show equipment, and similar to the drapes behind you, it became apparent that now the different rooms, 8x8 treatment rooms, needed to be covered. So we were able to activate 1,000 times 10, what we call pipe and drape poles, to go ahead and add some privacy to the rooms, as well as some other small accoutrements, refrigerators and skids and the equipment to go ahead and move the materials around.
Bob, are you just giving my secrets away right there?
What's that?
The drapes behind me, my green.
Yeah. Well, I almost called you. We were, it pretty much exhausted a lot of our supplies. And then we were able to go out to contact other partners in the business to say, we have this activation. Could you share some materials? In our industry is the trade show and event industry, as competitive as we might be with certain projects. If any of us ever get in a bind, we're always willing to jump in. So a couple of the competitors were able to go ahead and turn around in a 4 or 5 hour notice, provide us the materials, and we were able to get those rooms built so they could be activated.
That's amazing. So I'm interested. So 1,000 rooms, and I know that when hospitals make something, there's a standard above. And I'm interested in what the design is for these rooms and what kind of appliances or connections or outlets. I don't know if they have oxygen going to them, or could you describe a little bit about what's actually inside of these rooms? Sure.
And again, a lot of this is a little bit outside our realm because we're just the implementation team. But they were all primarily 8 foot by 8 foot. They were all the sheetrock that I mentioned. They were then painted so they could be decontaminated when patients come in and out. They were all sealed with tape. The pipe and drape that I mentioned was strung across the top. Each room was equipped with either a cot, but at some particular point, the activation changed because the cots went out, and Bob's store donated some beds, and 500 hospital beds are still being delivered now and activated. There was a private, I guess you would call it a drawer, a lockable closet, or a drawer where the patients or participants can lock and store their goods. There was an end table placed in each room, and oxygen, to your point, was strung throughout these rooms, either on a big tank permanent basis or in the Hall C, where it's primarily for the folks that don't have permanent homes, where they could be portable tanks could be brought in. So Partners Healthcare is activating the hospital staff, the nurses and the doctors on a 24-hour basis.
Wow. And you talk about Hall B and Hall C. So does that mean there are not these rooms in kind of like the sports arena part of the convention?
No, they're sports arenas. They're hundreds of thousands of square feet. And you can imagine 500 rooms of 8x8 nature. I'm not a real good mathematician. And you might guess that there is a Hall A to the convention center as well, and that's being used as a staging area. So there's a full stock storage room for office and medical supplies. There's an on-site pharmacy. It's quite an operation that just hopefully won't have to serve too many of the people in the community, but if it needs to, it's ready.
Who oversees the total project? Is that state driven?
It's activated by the mayor. Again, Jim Grossman, senior executive at Suffolk, is on loan to manage the project. They're pretty much done with the implementation because it's built. So the building's built now, and it's being managed and occupied by Partners Healthcare. Wow. So our responsibility is to run the loading dock and continue to move equipment into the, I don't want to say contaminated, but the treatment rooms is corporate events staff. So if we were to go downstairs and take a look, we probably have a staff of 15 to 20 people. And I would say half of them are in the PPE suits now with the masks and the gowns and the gloves and the protocol, moving materials from what I mentioned is A hall, the staging area, through a little incubation room and then into the hall. And all this stuff is being decontaminated afterwards. And the precautions are just unbelievable for our group.
Have you had experience in any other site assembling anything similar to this?
I am pretty happy to say no. This is the first activation of this nature that we'd had to be involved with, and hope it's the last.
Yeah, we all agree with that. How about other facilities in other parts of New England? Any?
Yeah, the DCU Center in Worcester was activated actually before the BCEC, and that's being activated by the Army Corps of Engineers and the MEMA folks. Quite honestly, Tim, over the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of preoccupied with this project, so my finger's not on the pulse of what's going on in the rest of the region.
Well, it's one of the things that I wanted to explore with you a little bit in the time we have left is the trade show business. I mean, obviously, there's a huge facility there. It's probably one of the best places in the country to hold conventions, I would think, and exhibits. It's had to this virus has had to have a very huge impact, negative impact on the business.
Well, yes, and unlike a lot of other economical negative impacts, this happened almost immediately, where corporate communications with its national business, unfortunately, had to furlough a number of its people because trade shows across the country have been canceled. Other convention facilities like the BCEC have been converted for patient care, and it's kind of come to a standstill. I am involved weekly with a number of different trade groups trying to guess when it's going to come back and what's going to happen. The most impressive thing one of the most impressive things that I saw is when that first treatment room became activated. Great guy, Kevin Cox, air control. He's phenomenal from South Boston. Came in, reversed the pressure in the building such that all the air from the loading docks is being blown into Hall C. It's being blown out through the roof. So there's a negative impact there to take the virus outside the area. He stopped that, and the entire room was fumigated. Nobody could go in there for 3 hours and cleansed. So our hope is when this gets deactivated, that same process can take place. The building can be clean, and we can start to go ahead and host visitors again.
There's got to be a pent-up demand for that, isn't it? Isn't there?
I think this physical distancing, I don't want to call it social distancing because you and I are still talking, so we're still social.
Yes.
But I think the desire for social interaction is going to come back so strongly that our business can pick up as early as late August and September. I'm not an expert by any means, but that would be our hope and our prayer that we could regain the social aspect of our industry quick.
I think you're right about that positive outlook. You know, we have a major event that takes place out of Hopkinton every year, the marathon, which was scheduled to be run next Monday.
Right.
And the collaborative nature of what you have been through took place between the governor, the mayor, the cities and towns along the race course, and the Boston Athletic Association, and they very early, you remember, postponed the marathon. I think, well, first of all, it was an unprecedented move. The governor's going to create a holiday in September. I think that the marathon will be, not in terms of the size of the field. There's 31,000 people signed up. I think most of them are going to run. And I think that the attendant publicity and interest and excitement is going to be huge.
I can't disagree with you. I think as pent up as a lot of people, and we've been fortunate, although this is not the activity we'd like to be involved with, we still have quite a bit of activity, interaction with folks that aren't quarantined per se. So I'd like to believe the same thing, Tim. I think people are going to come back, and I think they're going to have a new understanding of, maybe they'll have a new understanding of relationships, good and bad.
Well, and appreciation for, being able to run the marathon.
Well, in this collaborative nature, you can see, Jim, this it's kind of an interesting, almost web that Bob was part of, piecing and stringing and attaching and connecting various pieces. That had to take a lot of attention. Somebody's has got the brain power to pull it all together, and then you had to be focused on that. I think it's pretty impressive.
I'd have to say the cooperation level is just, times like this, you want to be proud. You want to be proud of the fact that you're part of the state of Massachusetts, you're part of the city of Boston, and you're part of a lot of people that are able to rally together. Not to get too mushy about things, but it's kind of sobering to some point.
Yeah. Have you had it seems to me the mayor of Boston has been stellar in and around a number of things. The governor as well. The collaboration between state and local is pretty impressive. Is that your sense?
Yeah, and I think he also was extremely he was very respectful of the trades. The carpenters, the laborers, the teamsters, and the fact that the Army Corps of Engineers, this really isn't their business. So who could get the job done the best? And he chose Suffolk as a professional construction company that could go ahead and do this. And they're all the people are great. And for him to pull together that team and for them to respect his leadership to get this done in this amount of time, it was remarkable to see. Remarkable to be. I'm very proud to be, and our company is Jay and Wally, and I would be short-sighted not to say that we continue to stay active in Hopkinton with the effort that's happening on the Common. And even though there might be a little nepotism here, my daughter Rachel's kind of assisted a number of the women in that. So even behind the scenes, there's a lot of folks.
Well, as you know, in your business, and Jim knows equally as well, messaging is a big deal. And so signs and reinforcement, the little example of putting masks on the marathon sculptures, all of those kinds of things and the work Rachel's doing all helps. So Jim, pretty exciting, isn't it? What do you think?
It certainly is. It's really, really interesting to get the story on this. We only have about a minute left, but Bob, I'm interested.
Yes.
What's the status? Is the construction finished? And I assume patients, are they not coming in yet? What's the status there?
The construction, it was completed some time ago. The implementation is completed, and patients are participating both from the folks that don't have homes and virus patients that need a certain level of care. So it is fully operational.
Oh, I see. Now that it's all put together and it's actually operating, what is your role there? You're still there.
Well, we continue. The Teamsters have the responsibility to help load and unload here. So we have a regular staff of 13 to 14 hours a day where trucks check in, they back up to the dock. We are able to go ahead and unload the materials, account for the materials. And then we're also servicing the oxygen folks, the doctors, the nurses, the linens, the laundry people with any type of really product movement. And right now, hopefully it's going to stay at that one shift, which involves a dozen or so people, but a dozen or so people.
All right. Well, hey, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. And
you too, Jim, keeping us all active and involved. And Tim, it's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Well, Bob, we're proud of you. So we're proud of you, proud of your company, proud that you're part of Hopkinton. So keep up the good work, and most importantly, please be safe.
We will. Same with you guys. If there's anything we can do for us, let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
You too.
All right, Tim. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for helping
Happy to do it.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Talk to you later.